You may not be aware, but it is rare to be in an acceleration in which the fullness of the medieval period comes through unchanged in all its powerful imagery. The Dies Irae, which we sang right now, is something which collocates humankind in the correct key. It's nothingness. It's total lack of rights. You know that passage in Isaiah, or was it Jeremiah, where the potter has all his rights to create, to break, and to do anything he wishes with the pot. The pot has no right to answer back. And it is the same when we start to protest when a living person is taken from our grasp. We own, we have rights. We don't. We have come from nothing and we return to nothing, except that that nothing then is the everything that we have gained in that moment of existence that we call time. I have in my Hermitage Chapel a little globe which I put out when I've put the cruets away to remind me of the number of souls leaving it all the time, about 2 every second, because my job is to push these souls in the right direction, because they die unprepared and unaccompanied, and very few actually are going through life with the awareness that they had in the Middle Ages when they composed such powerful poetry. Go to any of our architectural gems going back to the same period, and you will find that poetry and imagery chiseled into stone. Go to our great cathedrals. Go to any of the ancient monuments, and you will find, e.g., the macabre dance. Skeletons with mitres and crowns on their head, dancing with the paupers, all in one big equalizing game of existence that is fluffed out just like that, and afterwards leaves little space for crowns and glory. The only crown is what has been acquired through merit and collaboration with divine grace in that moment of time which decides all eternity. Go further back, not so far from here, and even closer to where I am, and you've got Monaster Boyce and the other Celtic crosses dotted around this holy land. What do you see there? You see nude souls in scales being weighed and waiting to see which way the scales will tip. And what is holding it up or down? The presence or absence of, again, merit. Now, we look at these in our modern sophisticated way with a grin. And yet, my friends, they knew more about life than we perhaps do, because there were fewer distractions and life was shorter, and they were continually reminded that it was not a long affair. So perhaps a higher proportion was prepared. As indeed, closer to us, in World War I am quite sure that many of the soldiers were well prepared. Go to Belfast, go into the Anglican Cathedral there, St Anne's I believe it is, and go to the left and you will find eventually in the ambulatorium a picture of Irish soldiers at the front, about to go to meet the enemy. And it is well portrayed. Humble, ordinary Irishmen on their knees in a row while the bombs and the grenades are creating havoc a few meters away. Going well prepared, compared with the youth of Ireland today, who often end it themselves by the various means they have of stopping it all, they think. This month of November is a time for pausing at our tomb. By chance, I live just in front of tombs, because the Hermitage is within the property of the old monastery of Duleek, and therefore every time I go between the Hermitage and the parish church, I pass these reminders. And it is good, now and again, to pause, and I do sometimes, walking actually into the graveyard, either going or coming, and with just my eyes closed or looking at the graves, and perhaps looking up into the sky, looking at what? Time passing. As Dylan Thomas says in Under Milk Wood, time passes. Listen. Time passes. And just to do that at a tomb now and again is a little exercise I would leave with you, especially in a moment like this. Remembering that there you are too, because time is short and it will come, perhaps more quickly than you think. Go to any of our ruins in Ireland, go to perhaps Glendalough, and pause there at the tombs, old and new. You'll find actually one with 2 words written on it, addressed to you. 2 Latin words which say it all. Siste viator. Stand still, stop, traveller. Viator, on the way, via. We are on the way, we're moving past. In the 80s, after Blue came into my hand the manuscript which I spent a long while afterwards in secret translating into English, and which years later I managed to get published. But it's actually on the website, you can read it for yourself. If you go into the media section, you can download it, and here it is. But it's the manuscript of Purgatory, and also I appended the Letter from Hell, because I translated that at the same time. And they're both 2 stories, true unfortunately, or fortunately for the first one who got there, which are kind of home truths and a bit close to the bone and very modern. The Hell one goes like this. It shows why this lost soul didn't get there. It also shows that one moment contained all eternity. It was when, one Sunday morning, a year after her marriage, she had heard in her heart a nudge, a powerful pull. Maybe just once more you could go to Mass. It was Sunday morning. And she, with a firm no, said, no! Let's be finished with all this once and for all. And that no re-echoes for all eternity, because through divine mercy for us, she was obliged to make known to her friend who had been trying to warn her that she didn't make it. Claire, you can stop praying for me. I'm damned. The word damned comes from damnatus, lost, a lost soul. And in November, we're thinking about souls. And remember, they do walk. Stray, lost souls or souls not at rest. We call them ghosts, but they're not at rest. A ghost perhaps is not totally lost. We're not quite sure what goes on there, but they're around in Ireland. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. The famous case, not far from here in Knockbrue, I won't say his name, but he's not at rest, and people know that, and they see him still going around. Ireland is full of these stories. But they're not just stories, it's the experience of the generations. People have always known that there are spirits around. Go to all these places nearby, Knockbrue, Slane, Tara, Newgrange, all these places of Druidic cult. We're faced with that one big problem, the great question mark. What's there on the other side? Where are these our brethren going? Can we help them either before or after? It's the big puzzlement of mankind. But here, in this manuscript, the good part of it, that is the one that has a happy ending, it's actually, I think, on this very day, in November, in the early 1900s, she comes back to say that she's made it, after all the help of the other one, this nun who died unprepared. And it's interesting, because you've got 3, in this collection of things, levels. 1, that no which goes on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, underneath. That one, purgatory, where all the time she's getting closer and closer and closer, and warning the other what to avoid so as not to get in that place of torment, because purgatory is serious stuff, remember. It's not just something wishy-washy as we might be inclined to think. and the other, this moment on this day, when eventually, through the application of all these celebrations around the world, there's a lot of prayer going on this day, remember, this oomph, this push was given, and the eyes of the soul opened to the horizons of eternity for which she was made. Because every soul who gets to purgatory at least says this, only purgatory. And some get there who shouldn't really be there. We know the Lord does all he possibly can. Just one tiny bit he pulls out if he possibly can. And it's only those who really don't want to know God, who say that no, who don't get there. But my friends, don't be taken in. It's serious stuff. Life is serious because the risk is there. And I remember reading this in Thomas Merton's work. The monastic life is serious because of this risk for mankind. We take on ourselves the pain. It's not just a joke, our existence. If it means sacrifice for some, it means that there's a huge risk for others. So let's get our act together, my friends. And on this day, remember that we are only here in one tiny dot of time on the long map of eternity.